Welcome back to NTV News First Edition. We've heard in the news recently several extremely high-profile athletes removing themselves from competition due to struggles with their mental health. While some have been very critical of these decisions, others have been praised for the athletes and making their mental health a care and a priority. Here to discuss why the actions of these athletes is so important is Dr. Janine Hubbard. And she's in this week's edition of Get Psyched, of course. Dr. Hubbard, why do you think the reaction has been so mixed?
It's interesting that we have seen such a mixed reaction. On the negative side, we are still seeing, unfortunately, some of the stigma about mental health and misperceptions about mental health. And, you know, ideas that, well, someone is weak or, well, you know, they knew they weren't going to do well, so they're chickening out. And fortunately, we have also seen some real positives and people appreciating the differences, because we would not be talking about this in the same way if it was a physical injury. If people had, you know, sustained an injury or come down with an illness, it would be perceived very differently. And that's why this discussion is so important to be having right now.
Well, we've heard about the importance of taking care of mental health from many celebrities. So why is it important to hear the message from these athletes?
Well, again, anytime we can start the discussion, it's important. But athletes, especially what we've seen are top of their game, ultra elite athletes who, quite frankly, have nothing to prove and nothing to lose at this point in terms of establishing their skill set. They're often seen as superheroes or almost superhuman. I mean, these are the people who push their bodies to extreme limits that most of us could never even dream of. So for elite athletes at that level to say, hey, you know what, I struggle, and I am saying that even though I may push my body to the limit, I can set boundaries, and my mental health is putting my physical health at risk, and I'm not willing to do that. And especially in, you know, a field like gymnastics, where those athletes have notoriously pushed themselves through injuries. This is huge and very empowering message.
Well, a lot of these athletes, train for these 4 years, so to have the courage to pull out then, I can't imagine. So why is it an important message for all of us?
Well, it's an important message for young athletes out there in terms of modeling, in terms of saying, look, your physical health is just as important as your mental health, and the importance of setting boundaries. I mean, I think about the young girls out there training and how powerful that is. But for the rest of us, for the most part, at least the online discussion has been uniformly positive and saying, good for her, it's about time. So I want us to use this as a discussion point to say it's important to talk about mental health. It's important to remember that there is no health without mental health, and setting boundaries and beginning the discussion and reaching out for help and acknowledging that it's not a weakness. It's, you know, very much part of our holistic health and the importance of boundaries and looking after all aspects of our mind, body, and physical well-being.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in this edition of Get Psyched, Dr. Hubbard. We look forward to next week.
Thanks so much.
Another day of